Hey guys, it's Mike back with another video. Today we're going to be installing clutches into the GSI X-29 wheel. To give you an idea of the steps involved, here's a list. It's not that difficult, but you'll want to go slow and take your time. So the first step is remove the QR if you already have one installed. This is optional, but it gives you a little bit more room to work with. Next, we're going to use a 1.5mm hex wrench. We're going to loosen the set screws in the rotary knobs, the 3 in the center and the 2 funky switches on the sides. You don't want to remove the set screws completely, you just want to make sure that they're loose enough that the rotary knobs can slide off. Now we're going to remove the front plate Torx bolts, and we're going to use a T25 and a T10 bit for this. Alright, so after removing those Torx bolts, you'll find that the front plate is still on there pretty good. And the reason is because there's 3 nuts behind those rotary knobs. And to remove those, we're going to want to use a 10mm socket wrench. So throughout this whole process, you'll see that I'm going very slow, and that's because I don't want to scratch anything. So for this step, I just use the wrench to loosen all of the nuts, and then I take the bit off and I twist the bit with my fingers to take the nuts off for the remaining threads. Alright, so now you'll find that the front plate is loose. Be very careful. Don't make the mistake that I just did. There are washers that are under each of those nuts. You don't want to lose those. You're going to need those later. Alright, so now the front plate is off and the board is exposed. Be very careful of those buttons because now they're no longer protected by the front plate. You can actually bump them and break things, so be cautious. So now we need to disconnect the existing wiring. This is the power and the USB on the bottom. Be very careful. Don't yank on the cables for this part. Just try to work the connector out and eventually it'll come free. Next, we want to remove the shifter connections at the top. Now we want to remove the PCB screws with a 2mm hex wrench. This is actually a pretty good spot to take a picture, because note that not all of the holes are populated with screws, so it helps to have that reference for later. Now with all the screws out, we can gently lift up the PCB. On my unit, I found that this was actually kind of tricky because you'll see that in the two wings at the top there, there's actually a bit of double-sided tape. And that tape, I don't know what kind of tape it is, but it holds onto that board really well. I don't want to crack the board, so I gently try to work it free. See here, you see me using my pry tool to try to get behind it. Now I'm using the sharp end just to try to lift it up. And there, I break the right side free. Now I have to do the same on the left. So I'm curious as to why GSI puts that tape there. There's already a lot of screws. If anybody from GSI is watching and you can comment on why that's there, it would be cool to know. I wonder if it's there to stop some kind of rattle or what, but yeah, just be careful when you take this board out. And now finally, the moment that you've probably been waiting for, it's time to install the clutch units themselves. Alright, so first you want to start with one clutch and feed the wiring through. And here you'll see I've already inserted 2 screws into the back plate to help line up the clutch. Alright, with the clutch aligned, now we can tighten those bolts down, but first what I tend to do is I rotate the screw backwards until I feel a hop, and then I screw it in. The reason why I do that is it makes it harder to cross-thread the screw. So try to do that for every screw on this so that you don't ruin any of the tapped holes. With the right clutch in, now we can move on to the left and we repeat the same thing. Now with both clutch units installed, it's time to put everything back together. We start with the PCB. When you place the PCB down, take care to not pinch any of the wiring, especially since we have 2 more wires here, so there's a bit more to keep track of. Now remember, you're not going to put screws in all of these holes, so either watch where I put them in this video or go back and see where they were at the start of the video, or if you took a picture, use that. Alright, now it's time to reconnect the wiring. The USB one is pretty straightforward, but for the left and right clutches and shifters, you're of course going to want to make sure that the left ones go to the left ports and the right ones go to the right ports. And as a reminder, the shifter cables are the ones at the top that are all black. Those go in the top. And our new clutch wiring, that goes in the bottom. Now we can gently reinstall the front plate. Again, make sure that you don't put any force on any of those buttons because they are very fragile. Remember our 3 washers from the rotary knobs, we want to put those back first and then reinstall those nuts. Then we can reinstall the front plate Torx bolts. Now it's time to carefully reinstall the rotary knobs. Take care that the set screws haven't fallen out. Now that our front plate is secured, it's time to install those clutch paddles. Each clutch paddle is secured with 2 bolts and they go in through the backside. Alright, so one thing to note is that when I originally installed my new clutch paddles, I really didn't feel that they felt all that great. And I found that just giving it a couple sprays of PTFE spray made them feel as smooth as butter. So if you experience that same thing with your clutches, don't worry, it's a really easy fix. Alright guys, that's it for this X-29 clutch install. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. And if you have any questions, comments, or thought of something that I missed, please comment down below. Thanks, and I hope to see you guys next time.